Guys, welcome to We Love Sundays. Thanks so much for tuning in again. This is definitely not our second take due to Wi-Fi issues. Today on the episode, we're excited. I'm really excited to bring a good friend on, George Posadas. He is many things, and you'll learn that today. Many good things. A friend to many. Has got an incredible story, is a fitness coach, executive coach, an executive and owner of a really successful chain of gyms, and really a great man of faith and someone who's really an encourager. I know a lot of people, including myself, have looked to him for encouragement, for advice, for wisdom, and I'm hoping that as you listen to this, you'll be blessed the same way I've been blessed by knowing George. So, George, how are you? Take number one. Take two. How are you, man? Thanks for rolling with the punches here. How are you, man?
I appreciate you. Like I said in our pre-takes, I really admire you guys doing this. We Love Sundays. Love the title for sure. And faith and leadership is something that is in my fiber. So I've been looking forward to this. So it's awesome. Even though if it takes 5 takes, it's okay.
It's just gonna get better every time, man.
Yeah. I think I got the better lighting this time, the 5 o'clock lighting or golden hour. Or whatever.
There we go. The golden hour. Well, man, let's just dive in. I like to start these by just asking, tell us about your story. On the first take, you gave us, you kind of gave me a background of your family and how you grew up and what was important to you and where you're at now. Let's just dive in and maybe you can tell us that awesome answer again.
Hopefully it comes out the same this time that it did the first time, right? But then at least you can see if I'm aligned or not, right? But yeah, just a little bit about myself, background. I am a child of immigrants, right, that came to the United States. Grew up a gardener. So since I was about 8, 9, 10, started gardening with my father to help out the house and never received any financial things. Like, here's some money. Because my dad knew what was my heart was my mom. He's like, it's for your mom. Unless you want her to work, then, you got to show up. So then I showed up every single day to, even on Saturday and Sundays, I would show up. So I worked as a gardener for many years, going to school as well. I was honestly, I was a 4.0 student up until I had my first girlfriend. So hence, that's why I'm single. Oh my God. You can cut that out if you want, but, yeah, that's funny. But anyways, so, I got my first D, my first breakup. I noticed that, relationships matter in life, right? So, but throughout high school, did great. I was an athlete. I was involved with Avid and leadership back then and mentoring people. I was in between, the counselors would call me over and then they would tell me hey, I need you to mentor these kids. They're troublemakers like you, but not like you because you get good grades and you're an athlete. But that was my high school, in sports. And I had an amazing mentor in high school before mentoring was a word. He was my Spanish teacher. So shout out to Mr. G. And then after that, working in different jobs and still gardening at the same time, going to college, graduated Cal State in marketing, met a lot of great people. And, me and you obviously worked together and a great group of guys, and we all learned and grew. And now I lead a 5-chain fitness center, so gyms, and it's been great, man. It's been great leading people, and it's grounded by my faith.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think I said this last time, but there's something really special about having that immigrant background. It really teaches you to not take things for granted and to really make your life matter. I know that was my parents are first generation immigrants from the Philippines, and they were just constantly hammering that message into me, and I think to see where you're at now versus the humble beginnings of starting work, and not just regular work, but pretty intense work like gardening. People don't understand. Most of our, people don't understand that's hard work. And especially in Bakersfield where it gets 110, 115 in the summer, that is pretty formative character development early. Mm-hmm. And to see where you're at, that's really inspiring. You wouldn't be able to do that without some sort of urgency, but really self-leadership.
Yeah.
So my question would be what is leadership to you and why is it important?
Great question, Iril. Leadership. I mean, I think not. I think I know leadership. For me today, leadership is influence. Right. We talked about that in our first take. Leadership is influence. Um, Leadership is stewardship as well. It is my responsibility as a leader to steward the people I lead, and influence them in a positive way. Right? It's kind of like Spider-Man thing. Like with great power comes great responsibility. So leadership for me is that there's great power behind it. I'm not just go do this. I'm more of like let's go do this, and leadership is something that I've learned, and I've been growing even more and more with my walk with the Lord, and he continues to affirm and reassure me that this is my path to steward people in the right direction. And I'm blessed to be in the position I am today to be able to lead people. And it's not just my staff that I lead, that I get the opportunity to lead. It's also my family, like my mom, my sisters, my nieces and nephews. And and then our member base, sometimes we cross paths with other people and we talk and we learn, and we just build this relationship in our community that has allowed me to, I tell people I've cried at that gym so many times with men. It's I think I've done that more than sweat, right? Not with men, obviously, but like I'm saying, like we talk, and then like, hey man, I haven't seen you in a long time. And I just see like this aura, or I get this feeling and discernment of go talk to that person, check in with them. So I have a check in my spirit as well. And then like I just sit there and I listen, and I'm an empath naturally, but I think it all works well together. And I promise you there's times where men and women too, they tell me like, I wasn't going to come in today, but something told me to come in, and haven't seen you in 2 years or in 6 months or in 5 years, or I just rejoined, and we're having this very impactful conversation that leads to some happy tears and some encouragement and some confidence and some reassurance that we all need sometimes.
That's incredible. I mean, I know we've had some of those moments together in my leadership journey. Leadership sucks. People who think that they want to be a leader
Yeah,
think twice.
well, that's true. Yeah, we did talk about that, right? We talked about leadership is pain.
Yeah,
It's not fun. It's not something that we. It looks nice and shiny, the word, right? But it's like iron sharpens iron, right? What is the true meaning of that? There's a lot of friction that happens when iron sharpens iron.
totally.
There's friction. It's put in heat. It's put under pressure. It gets sharpened more and more and more. You get rusty, and then you got to sharpen again. So leadership is painful, but you can't go through the pain without enjoying the beauty of it all. So that's also part of leadership for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm convinced that the primary way that God will use to form, especially leaders, is through pain and the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can think of multiple scenarios in my life where the deepest moments of pain and brokenness became opportunities and really a crossroads in my life as to whether I was going to completely walk away from, I don't like the
Uh,
word destiny, or completely walk away from maybe calling or my
uh-huh.
responsibility or my influence or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, or I was going to allow God to really just make redeem the pain and the broken and the suffering.
Yeah.
And I know, I can tell if a leader has allowed themselves to get jaded or broken just off of that initial aura. And obviously, I know you and I
Uh,
have spoken about it. You've gone through some of those hard moments. My why should someone care about leadership? Why should they maybe invest into learning if they're a leader? And then, is everyone a leader?
that's a loaded question. You're coming with some loaded clips, Iril.
Yeah, go
Um,
on.
yeah, I mean, leadership alone in that word, it goes with so many. It could go so many avenues, right? Like, why should somebody invest in leadership, right? Why for men and women, right? Like I have sisters and my mother and a lot of good women in my corner that I'm all about women empowerment for sure. So leadership not only for a woman or a man, it means the same value, right? Because if you start now on learning how to lead yourself first, right? And then from there, it trickles down. How do I lead my coworker, my partner at work, my life partner, my spouse? Because I heard it somewhere, but it talked about leadership. Like for you, I wrote, you want to be a great leader in business and life, but you also want to be a good leader for your wife, right? And if you break it down, like being a great leader, because it'll allow you to lead her, right? So hopefully that wordplay, you caught on to that. It's like when I heard that, I was like, wow, that is so good, right? So leadership, it matters a lot in relationships and work relationships and building and leading yourself, because if there's no leader, we would be lost. And that's why we have one leader that leads us through the good and the bad. So leadership is very, very important, because that's who taught us is, Jesus Christ, to help us lead and lead through his faith and lead through our faith. And then ultimately it's just discipline, man. It's ultimately just discipline to be a good leader, having integrity, doing the right thing. That's not easy. It's not easy. Most people choose the path of least resistance. And, and that could go like, again, with relationships, it could go with work. It could be choosing the least path of resistance at work. You know what? I'm going to do, like for us, we got disconnected. You know what? I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to check the Wi-Fi connection, make sure we paid our bills, So anyway, but yeah, great question.
How does someone lead well, in your opinion?
How does someone lead well? Let's see. That's a good question. I mean, how does someone lead well? It's such a simple question, but so hard to answer. Someone leads well by how they lead themselves. Like I said earlier, like how they lead themselves shows you how they can lead in the future. Like if I can't get up and be at work on time, how do I expect anybody else to be at work on time? If I'm only, do as I say, not as I do, that's not good either, right? You lead well by leading from the front and the back. You lead well by being in the grind with your coworkers, with your family, right? You lead well by always being honest, honestly, just being true to yourself. Because most people, what I've learned, they don't respect me because of my title. They don't respect me because I'm right. They respect me because I'm real. And, that's the honest truth. And that's how somebody can lead well, by always accepting and being humble by, I could be wrong. Because sometimes you can make the wrong decision at the right time, and vice versa. You can make the right decision on the wrong time. And you have to be okay and remove your pride and ego to understand, you know what? I was right about this, but the wrong timing. And that's something that a true leader leads well, when they accept their failures and are open and honest about it without anybody telling you like, hey, you were wrong. It's better for you to come from you. You know what, guys? I was wrong and I apologize. Let's move forward. I should have trusted you in your decision here, or vice versa. So, it's a humbling moment. And part of my leadership that's in my core is my empathy and my humility. I feel like those two are good, solid pillars of my leadership, because I'm okay being wrong. I'm okay being wrong. And like, I think Tom Brady said it, he learned more in his losses than in his wins. And I'm like, wow, that's solid. So yeah, man, hopefully that answered your great question.
Totally. That's extremely insightful. And I think I would love you to expand a little bit more on humility and empathy being core tenets of your leadership. I love, one of my favorite podcasts is the Founders Podcast, and it's this guy who basically, are you familiar with it?
No.
Dude, it's sick. It's this guy named David Senra. He's basically just he's insane. He just reads all of these books on these really great men and women, all these great founders, all these great historical figures. And one common thread that you see, whether it's Elon, whether it's Steve Jobs, whether it's, any of these, founders or historical leaders, is I don't know if anyone would describe them as humble or empathetic, right? I think this is even a tension that I struggle with, because when people think about success, when they think about leaders, they have this archetype or this image in their mind of like highly driven, really intense, ruthless, almost this like Kobe Jordan-esque archetype, which I think there's some value to. But that's not necessarily the way that Jesus tells us to lead. This
No.
is something that I struggle with, and I think that's something you really embody extremely well. I think even our last coffee, we were talking about this tension as well. So,
Yeah.
could you expand on why humility and empathy is important for you as a leader, and why it's effective for the people that you lead?
Yeah, man. I think the main core reason why humility and empathy works is because you don't when you have that in your fiber in your DNA, it's more of like your pride is aside, your ego's aside, and one thing I know is true when there's pride and ego always show up first when there's a disagreement, right? It's well, I said this and you said that. Well, I said this, and it's always pride and ego shows up first. It's not your humility or empathy shows up first. If the world showed up with humility and empathy first before any decision, there would be so many more compromises, so many more happy people, right? But but pride and ego is real, and that's the enemy, right? The enemy's like, no, that person's wrong, but you got to whisper to that person, like, maybe you're wrong, right? So for me, it's more not being cautious, but being self aware of when there's division in the house and there's no empathy and humility, then that's when things fall apart, right? They just fall apart. They lead to nothing, creates the bad friction, not the good friction. And ultimately, it's not to me, it's like I don't want to belittle nobody because where I'm at today, I don't want to judge somebody by the way they look or by the way they come up to me today or how I meet them today. Because I also learned people see you how they need you, right? And for me, like being in my position, sometimes they're like, "Oh, this is your position, wow," and they treat you different. And I'm not a title person, I'm not. I'm more of a let me earn your respect. I'm a person, I'm a human being, just like you. I don't care if your position is the entry level position or a high position. I'm going to treat you the same because you're a human being at the end of the day. And for me, is always putting myself in their shoes and perspectives of, well, if I don't give this person grace or humility or have humility in this decision or have humility in this correction, that I'm a know-it-all. Like, yes, I've been in leadership for, I could say, like I was sharing before, is like I led my household as a kid because I had to raise my little sisters when my parents are at work. So I had to lead, not knowing I had to lead, or I had to lead classmates or teams in high school and classes and stuff like that. It's like if I treated everybody the same differently because of their position, then my posture wouldn't be good, right? So that's where, you know, for me, it just comes down to humility and empathy. If you don't have that, you don't have a not that you don't have a heart. That sounds kind of rough, but where's your heart in it all, right? Because the day that we die, guess what? Our financial means is not going with us. God's gonna judge us based off. Let me see your heart posture. Let me see how you treated the waiter. Let me see how you treated the gardener. And for me, I was the gardener, so I think that's what something that resonates with me a lot because, you know what? I was that young kid that came, like we talked about, from immigrant parents, and I had to work. I wasn't able to be in the house and just play video games. I didn't even have back in the day, it was Nintendos, but today there's so many more things. So hopefully I answer your question. I think I went on a little rant, but hopefully I answer your question.
No, I think that's great, and that totally makes sense. And I've seen you firsthand do that, treat people the same, whether it's
Yeah.
another executive at the company or someone entry level. And I think that's extremely special. And unfortunately, it's definitely the exception and not the rule amongst
Yeah.
leaders and executives. I think
Yeah.
part of what I think that every single leader has really strong aspects and strengths and facets to their leadership that makes them uniquely them.
Mm-hmm.
I've shared with you. I think that I am like the worst at everything that you're really good. Like humility and empathy are like I have to pray for these things every day.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
And then God still doesn't answer my prayers, or maybe He keeps sending me opportunities and I just keep failing.
Yeah, no, I
But
remember. I remember you're like, but why, George? But why? And that's when we talked about the leadership is pain thing. I'm like, and I just kind of like I just had a moment when you were like venting and expressing your frustrations, and I'm like, yeah, it's frustration, but it's challenging. And then you're just
yeah,
why? I don't get it. Like, what? And then I'm like, you won't get it today, but you'll get it later,
Yeah.
delayed gratification. So
100%. And so I think, you know, I think part of you're really good at a lot of things, but part of what really makes your leadership special, informed by the humility and the empathy, is your ability to work with people, to
mm,
influence them, to work through conflict,
mhm.
to have disagreements and still keep a relationship, and even keep people at the company organization. Um, and so what how do you think about relationships and stewarding those well? I think also, just to add, right, like you talk about your background, being a gardener at the age of 8, from first generation immigrants who, crossed the border. And you've shared with me some crazy stories about the different rooms you've been in, whether that's you know, extremely famous pop
Yeah.
music artists and rappers to NFL athletes and
Yeah.
all of these personalities and these figures, and you do treat them the same way. So how do you think about relationships, friendships, managing conflict, um, being a leader in all of it? I would just love to know how you think about all of that, and what goes through your mind when those topics come up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to narrow down the question, is it more of like how do I see relationships, leadership and relationships, or
Well,
what do you?
let's start with, how do you deal with conflict, right?
Yeah, yeah. Conflict is for sure needed, right? Like at first growing up, conflict was what you're saying, you just punch somebody in the face, right? That's just how we handle conflict. You can't do that today, right? Like when there's conflict, you just face it head on. And there's a time I did this assessment in college about this psychology assessment, like draw an image of, basically the professor just said, hey, I need you guys to draw this. And there's a storm, you're in the mountains, there's houses everywhere, draw what you see. And and she assessed everybody's drawings. Mine was like stick figures, obviously, but mine was just a mountain. The storm was up top, and I was walking towards the storm. And she identified that I'm deep down inside, I'm a leader, and I think that was another affirmation that God gave me, like you're a leader, like you when there's conflict, you go head on, like you go head on. And it goes back to that thing that was on social media for a while, like the bull and the cow and the rain, right? I don't know if you saw that, right? Like they walk away from the rain, but then the bull, and I was like, I'm the bull, right? So I was like, that's me, But so yeah, I just feel like conflict, I welcome conflict because it tells me something about myself. It continues to challenge me, and it creates the friction that we talked about, iron sharpen iron, right? So it talks about that. I mean, for me, it talks to me like that, where when there's conflict, I have this thing that for sure, I listen, right? And then I learn about it, right? Here's an acronym that I use for a long time. I don't know where I learned it at, but the word is learn, right? So I listen to the situation, I show some empathy right away. I even edify, like, well, and then I address it, right? Like, so I wrote, so you're saying the issue is XYZ. Then I seek to understand, right? Before being understood. So then at that point, I'm like, okay, so you're saying this, and that, yes. And then I would report back to you and say, well, here's my response to that. And then how do we work through that? How do we come to a compromise? and and then we both learn, and then we take our mental notes as well. you know Conflict is necessary and it's needed, because when you're in a relationship, there's going to be conflict. When you're at work with your business partner, there's going to be conflict. When you're at the grocery store and some guy behind you is trying to jump up front because he has two items and you have a full cart, there's going to be conflict sometimes, right? um, so so for me, like, the conflict is needed because then it's taught me how to communicate, how to compromise, and how to commit to the decision that we compromise with. So I do embrace conflict. um, and I enjoy it too. So, because it's gonna happen. It's just like getting rejected, in sales or in anything else, interviews. You're gonna get rejected. So just fall in love with the rejection. Change your relationship with the rejection. If you change your relationship with conflict, there's so much fruit that comes after that. So there's a lot of upside when conflict arises.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is basically conflict is like an opportunity
Uh-huh.
for personal growth and for relational growth.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you talk about rejection and sales, and you have an extensive sales background, and but I think that the question underneath the question is confidence, right? It takes you have
Mhm.
to have a base level confidence to do sales, or really to be a leader, to live a
Mhm.
life of significance. How should someone go about confidence? How should they develop confidence? What if they struggle with self-worth and self-confidence? What would you say to them? What would you say on that topic?
Yeah, I guess it would start with your identity. Who do you identify as? If somebody came up to me and say, "Hey, George, I struggle with confidence," then I would kind of peel back the layers of the onion. Like, well, when did that start? When did you notice that you had a lack of confidence? Because the lack of confidence is because they're in the unknown, right? It's just like when we drove a car. When you first drove a car, Ariel, and your dad say, "Ariel, here's a car." You're probably scared and didn't have confidence in driving it because your dad would take the car away and probably, discipline you, right? Because that's what my dad did. He just, do not mess up the car, you know? So with anything, if you're not familiar with it, then you're not gonna have confidence, right? And now you get in your car, you're confident driving a distance, but when you look back at Ireel when he first started driving, the confidence wasn't there. So it's something that you work towards sometimes, and sometimes it comes natural, but majority, I feel like the majority of us, it's confidence happens because we're not familiar with what we're dealing with, you know? And it could be anything, like my stepson had cancer. We were all scared. I didn't know what to do with it, but guess what? I had the confidence to believe in the man above that he has us in the right position. He has the right people. So my confidence comes from him. And I pray all the time, right? The good and the bad. I pray and I say, why is this happening? I don't know why it's happening today, but I know there's something deeper here that's rooted. And then it'll help prepare me for something in the future. So those are the things that sometimes I feel that confidence isn't there. And even in the gym world, right? People say, "Hey, you sell gym memberships or training," and my honest response is that we don't sell training or memberships. We sell confidence. We sell the antidepressant. We sell the endorphin high, that we all seek sometimes versus the double tap. Oh, somebody liked my picture, great. That only lasts this much. But when we sell confidence, um, and relationships and community in Bakersfield, at least, then that goes a long way because some people come up to me like, "Man, I was very down on myself. I didn't even want to come in today, but by you just giving me a compliment that I haven't been." Some people don't get compliments. Like if I saw somebody walk in and I seen a difference, I'm like, "Hey, man, great job. You look amazing." They look around, they smile. Like today was real. One of the most popular news anchors in Bakersfield, she's sitting there and she's just like going at him like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's like, "Oh, hi, George." I'm like, "Hey, how are you?" She's like, "It's been a long day." I was like, "Trust me, me too." And I said, "Hey, I just want to tell you that you sound so great on TV. You sound so confident. You look amazing." And I know her man, so that's all respectful. And you know what? Keep doing what you're doing. And she's like, "You know what, George? Nobody has told me that in a long time." And she's been doing this for years. But I saw her face get red, smile, and I said, "You keep doing what you're doing. People are watching when you least expect it. Good job." And then high five party, and I left. So then that was it. But confidence. It takes work to have confidence because not every day I have confidence either, and that's just being real with being real with Real. That should be your next podcast. Being real.
That's so good. I am I'm surprised at how many people have extremely low self-confidence. And you're right, it's a spectrum, right? Some days you feel like you're on top of the world. Some days it's hard to even know, like, dude, maybe I should just, maybe I should just fold it up, maybe I should just hang it up. But
Maybe it's the
how,
caffeine I just drank, right?
yeah, exactly. uh,
Uh,
how can someone build their self-confidence? Like you talked about prayer, you're right. Some people don't ever get complimented or encouraged ever, but maybe you
uh,
don't have the luxury of those things, of being complimented or encouraged by community or someone like you around them in that third
uh,
space. How would you what would be the game plan that you would tell someone to become more self-confident and really find themselves?
Yeah, I would start with pen to paper, to visualize where they want to be, to write down people that they feel have confidence, and like say somebody told me I have confidence. You look like you have confidence, and then when I pulled the current out, and then I'm like, hey, this is really me. I struggle here. I struggle here. It's challenging these days. I guess it's more of like encouraging them that it's part of growth, not having confidence in certain areas. And then once they write it, they see it, and then they believe it. And then whenever they feel down, to reach out to their circle of influence. And if somebody doesn't have a circle of influence, then there's so much online that you could watch, see. Obviously, faith is first. I think therapy, I know therapy works as well. Sometimes, I've been in situations where confidence was taken away from somebody because of a parent, because of a loved one, because they got cheated on, because, they failed at a job. And because they felt like they failed, the feeling of a failure, that breaks down their confidence level. But when I identify that feeling is just a feeling that lasts a little bit, and it's the feeling's the same, it's just what you label it, right? Because you could feel happy, but you're not a failure, right? You can feel sad, but you're not a failure. But when you feel like you failed, that's what you label it. Just like the shirt you have on and the shirt I have on, whatever logo is on, it's just the label on the shirt, but it's made the same way. It has sleeves, has where we put our neck, covers our body. It's a t-shirt at the end of the day, but it's just what you label it. So for me, it's just helping them break down, what does it mean to have confidence? What does it mean to you? And then we together work through it to show them that confidence is an everyday thing, and it's okay to not to be confident at some times. And just have that, like I was saying before, is like have that acceptance of, you know what, not everybody's confident that I think has confidence. And so I think it's just an ongoing self work of confidence, because like right now we're joking about like, if I drink caffeine, I have more confidence. If I slept good, I have confidence. If I ate good, if I got direct deposit, I got more confidence. My cost a little bit taller, but you know what, I'm gonna buy. So it just depends, so you got to identify what brings you confidence, and then put it to be practical, be practical. And then removing that, like I always ask people, like, okay, let's just say you had 100K in your savings account right now today. How would you feel about yourself? Well, I'd be confident. Okay, so it's a financial thing. And if they say no, then there's something else deeper. And that's when, like I was sharing earlier, it might be rooted in something that happened to them that, remove the confidence from them. So
100%. How much of the coaching that you do is identifying mental barriers and blocks and then helping them overcome them? Like how much like is it typically yeah. So like when you're coaching someone and you talk about the confidence and you're getting really practical and like
Mhm.
there's clearly like there are mental blocks around that. Like how much of the coaching that you do is around identifying those mental blocks?
I mean, that's where it starts. It starts with who you identify as. Because if I identify as a man of faith, guess what? When I'm like hurting, I'm gonna go to my faith. I'm gonna go to Him. And so if somebody doesn't identify with the Lord, it's okay. The Lord welcomes you, and it's our job to shepherd them and lead them in the right way. And that's why God only gives us the light to our steps, not our whole path, right? And that's something that's real for all of us. So, you know, I guess I don't know if I answered your question, but you're talking
Yeah.
about how much work, it's I start with their identity, because it always starts with their identity, because they might have the victim identity. This always happens to me. I always get cheated on, or I never get the job I want. And we got to remove that label, right? We have to remove it. But then when they identify, and then some people identify like, man, I'm the fixer. I gotta go fix this. I gotta go help this. And then they have this amazing ability to fix things that most people don't have, and they're a problem solver, but they don't come with it with love like we're supposed to, right? Because I have the natural innate inside of me to be a fixer, a people pleaser as well, which is good and bad. but some people don't have that. So I am blessed to have that trait in my DNA, in my fiber, So, to answer your question, yes, I would start with who they identify as today, and then reflect, because history does repeat itself, like as we know, and I just want to reflect and then leave that bad behind, and then, come up to the surface. And like, I think we talked about resurrection as a word, right? Like we want to bury, the clothes that burden us. We want to bury the pain. We want to face it first and have closure and bury it so we could come out and blossom, right? And blossom. So yeah, man. So I think that's a great question. And then the last thing I would say, it's like similar to, we like a tree, right? We see the flower, the beauty of it. That could be confidence, right? And then on the flip side, when the flower is dead or it's not blooming and the tree has no leaves, that could be no confidence, right? But guess what happens? There's seasons in life, right? The sun shines, it rains, and then eventually comes back up. So it's kind of similar, right? It's like sometimes I have a lot of confidence in some seasons I feel defeated, but then I have to reflect on, why did I get defeated? Why do I feel this way? Where is that stemming from? And then from there, kind of learn from that. And then reflection, when I'm in a season of reflection, which naturally happens to me towards the end of the year, I'm blessed that it happens. Like in October, I start reflecting on a lot of things. It just kind of happens because the new year is coming up. My birthday is also in December. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting closer to 50 than I was to my 20s, So I start reflecting and just giving grace and being humbled. And again, the humility of, man, this is how far I came. So hopefully I answered the question.
No, totally. I think that's great. What are some of the other, you talk about the victim mentality or the victim identity, you talk about the fixer identity. I think, and I've said it on the pod before, but I think that the victim mentality is just so, it's a sickness, it's a sickness. I think the moment you become a victim, and I don't want to say this without prefacing that people have been through some really dark and deep stuff, but the moment you become a victim, you relinquish really the control and the power that you have as an individual,
Yeah.
like it's like, oh, all this is happening to me. Oh, I'm just, all of this, like I never even had a chance. Well, no, you have enough agency in your life to create a life for yourself and to create the future that you want. And so what are some of the other mental blocks or really destructive identities that you've seen, and why are they destructive, and why should people avoid them?
It just, when you started the question, the first word that popped into my mind was doubt, right? I feel that doubt has stopped not only myself, but a lot of people that I know. They're really high on, like, I'm going to do this, but then they doubt themselves, or the what ifs, right? The what ifs, that mentality hurts people. And doubt for me, it's like, there was a point in time where I started doubting my doubts. When I started doubting my doubts, and it was like, well, why do I think that way? Well, shoot, I'm overthinking now. And then I get stuck in, again, like analysis paralysis. I'm like, I'm overthinking it. And then for me, I realized that, being able to lead people and family members and coworkers and friends, doubt happens to all of us. And then if you doubt yourself, I mean, what is that? What is that snowball effect? You doubt yourself, your confidence goes away, your motivation goes away, your inspiration goes away, you forget your why. So to answer your question, doubt is another thing that I know we all struggle with it, So start doubting your doubts. That's for sure.
No, that's so good. I mean, that speaks to me. We're not actively raising capital right now for our company. We've hit some momentum, and we're really focused on a few different things. But I remember as I started raising capital for this new company, Church AI, the amount of, I have never been rejected so much in my life. It's crazy, dude. And to me, the future and the vision I see, and that's the hard part about leadership, right? Typically you have a vision and you see it so clearly. And a lot of times your job is, though you might live in the future, you have to get people on board to see the vision and then pay the price and count the cost to go with you. And that's been a huge learning curve for me, and I've really had to submit um that to the Lord, and that's been really formative for me. But
Yeah.
um
Good.
you know, doubt, that whole doubt piece is just, I mean, that just speaks to me because I had to deal with like I've never really dealt with this much self-doubt in my life. And
Yeah.
I've had to, like you say, doubt my doubts. Like, oh shoot, like we're just these guys from Bakersfield, all these guys from Silicon Valley and New York and Santa Monica, they're raising millions off of like some junk AI horoscope app. It's like, dude, what the freak is that? Like, dude, I'm just like unfundable, and like all these VCs are pattern matching us. Like we're not even.
Yeah.
But I've had to doubt that, and it's like, no, like, dude, God is my like God is working on behalf of us, and it doesn't mean that we'll be completely successful, but like I take comfort in knowing that He's
Mhm.
working all things for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. And so, I just want to
Yeah.
echo, like, dude, that's powerful. Kind of changing gears here.
Mhm.
Um, I think another thing that people really struggle with is friendships and relationships. We did an episode on loneliness, and the numbers are staggering, right? Like literally, I think half of the US population is struggling with like a chronic loneliness. It's literally an epidemic, and it's ironic because in a world where we're so connected,
Mhm.
like never before, we're so connected, yet loneliness is at an all-time high. One thing I
Yes.
know about you is you're really good at building relationships, really good at stewarding friendships, whether again, that's the front desk or that's a professional athlete. How
Mhm.
would you advise someone on, maybe they're lonely, maybe they don't feel like they have friends, maybe they don't, how would you coach someone through that? And what would be the plan of action for them to live a life full of relationships?
Mm. Solid question. Because I look at loneliness, I real as a good thing. You know, again, it's perspectives, right? Like
Wow.
I look at it as a good thing because sometimes God wants us to be still, right? He wants us to be still next to, still waters and all that stuff. Because sometimes the loneliness, it allows you to actually find out who you really are and where your faith is at. Because when I'm never alone. Even when I'm alone, I'm with Him. I am never alone, never alone. And I think that's the first thing I would tell people is like, where's your faith at?
It's good.
Because you're not alone. You're not alone. God made us to have communion, to have community, to have families. He made man for what? To provide, protect, procreate, right? It's like, so I think loneliness is a choice. They choose to be lonely. They choose to push people away because, like, I think I shared with you back when we worked together on my phone, I have this reminder. I put it as a reminder weekly, Thankful Thursdays. And when that thing goes off, the first person comes to mind, I'm going to text them or call them. Hey, man, I've been thinking about you because that's the person that came to mind. This is honest truth. Hopefully everything's okay. Or when I go to church recently, like Saturday, Sundays or Wednesdays when I go to church, it's like, hey man, I'm headed to church. Do you need any prayer requests? Send them. And then I send one and then another one and another one. And this happened like 2 weeks ago. And the responses I got were so amazing. One of my best
Oh,
friends, his dad just passed away. I wouldn't have known that because he suffers in silence. But because I did that text, I found out, I flew out, hung out with them, spent some quality time. We cried together, learned a lot of stories about his father that he didn't know. And other people said, pray for my mom, pray for my grandma, pray for my son, pray for me. I'm interviewing for this job. And just in that subtle moment of me sitting in worship, listening to worship, and it just started coming to me. And I'm just texting like, who else? Like, and that it's not even like it started popping in my head. And so to answer your question, loneliness is a choice, but also accept that you're not lonely. Our God is always with us. And look at your resources. Look around. You know, are you really lonely? No, you have coworkers. If you go to church, there's small group. Sorry. If you go to church, you have small groups. If you reach out to your high school mates, what's wrong with that? You know, reach out to your family. There's so many for me, I have my dogs. My dog, like, that's my best friend. Like, he does not talk back to me. He slobbers on me, but you know, he doesn't. I'm not alone. There's pets. There's also adoption for dogs. There's also adoption for kids. So are we really alone? We're not. It just, if you accept that and you identify as a lonely person, as a loner, then that's what you identify as, right? But again, we're not alone in this world. Um, and loneliness is a choice. But for me, like I was saying, I enjoy being alone because it helps me decompress. For me, on the flip side, is I'm always around people, so my energy is low, and then at that point it's like I need to decompress. But then on the flip side, there's other people that work alone, they work from home, they're isolated, and they need exposure. So again, it's depending on how your cards are dealt and what you do for work for a living. Loneliness is a good thing. You just got to accept it where you're at today, and just look around, because we have resources all around us to not be lonely.
That's really great perspective, and I think a lot of people will benefit from hearing that.
Which
I'd
part do
even
you?
think I definitely that loneliness is a choice, right?
Mm, yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's really powerful. I think again, it kind of goes back to that victim mentality, right? Oh, I'm so lonely. Nobody wants to be my friend. There's nothing I can do about it. So I'm going to be a mod on Discord or whatever people do. That's
yeah,
my
yeah.
fault. That's crazy, but you know what I mean. Like I think I like again, it goes back to that victim mentality. Like, take responsibility. There are people in your life that you could reach out to right now, and I
Yeah.
think like that's just great perspective. And then also the fact that even if you are lonely, it can be a gift because you're actually never truly alone, right?
Mhm.
You can really learn a lot about who you are and your relationship with God in those
Yeah,
moments. I totally agree. People typically distract themselves in relationships, you know?
yeah.
Um,
You know what the sad part about the relationship you just said is that what's worse is when you're alone in a relationship. When you're married and
wow.
you
Yeah.
that is so
Wow.
sad. Number one, sad. If you're in bed with your spouse and you feel alone, that
Mm,
is for anybody out there that's watching this and you're in that season of your life, hug your spouse, talk to your spouse. Do not be in a relationship where you feel alone,
yeah.
because you guys don't deserve that. You don't, So that just
That's real.
yeah, that
You
just
probably
shows
see a
that.
lot of that at the gym, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I see it a lot at church. I see it a lot at the gym, at grocery stores. Like, I
See
go to
someone like
theater. Yeah, I go to
you
theater
see
alone a lot just because
yeah.
it's where I decompress and I just have
That's a great
privacy. And
time. That's a
yeah,
great
and
time.
sometimes I just take a nap. To be honest, I eat a little bit, take a nap, but I truly enjoy my loneliness. Because you get to be you. You get to be you. You don't have to put on a show or nothing. And not to say that I am fake or nothing like that, because I truly feel, going back to the leadership and tying it back into what I'm about to say, it's like part of being a great leader is being authentically, unapologetically yourself. You know, I was at a birthday event this weekend that one of my staff invited me to, one of my great staff, and I went, and his cousin used to work for me, and he was talking about me to his younger brother. He's like, "Man, one thing I know that is true about George is he is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He treats everybody the same." And I was like, "Wow, was that the alcohol or was that true?" But hey, when alcohol's in, people speak the truth. So I took that to heart, and I really appreciate what he said. So yeah.
Totally. That's so good. Um, I guess my last question would be is if you had the entire world watching, or, you basically you have the biggest audience of your life, and they've come to hear you speak, and you have, 5-10 minutes to relay one message to them. Basically, like, what's your life message? Like, what would you say to them? How would you encourage them? What would you say?
I mean, to keep it simple, I would probably say, stop looking back and start looking up. Yeah. Just because we, well, as we know, depression and anxiety happens for depression because we think of the past, anxiety because we're thinking of the future, but we're never present. So I would add to that, be present where your feet are at. Don't look back, look up.
That's so good. I'm taking that to the bank, dude. I'm
Man,
taking that, man.
yeah, man.
Uh,
That's true stuff, man. So yeah, man, I appreciate you having some time, and thankfully the Wi-Fi worked this whole time, so
I know.
we're just
Well,
on a little full state, so that's good.
I appreciate the time and the value you've added. I learned from this conversation, and we'll have to do it again. We'll have to do it
Yeah,
again.
yeah, let me know.
That'd be awesome, man. I'm gonna. Well, thanks again, George. Appreciate it.
All right, bro. Take care. Peace out.